order. It's 6 o'clock, and this is the third budget meeting for the 2019 budget year. So just before I call for approval of the agenda, I'm going to insert a little extra onto the agenda. First of all, I have to give my apologies, Deputy Mayor Taylor, or Deputy Mayor Deschamps, because earlier, about 2 weeks ago, I guess maybe or so, I did have an invitation to go to the swearing-in ceremony for MP Michael Barrett. I wasn't able to go because of the Roma conference, and I asked Deputy Mayor Deschamps if he would go in my place, represent myself, and I also represent council and speak on behalf of the township. So he was good enough to do that on Monday, and I thought we'd just give him a minute. It's not very often that you have an MP that rises directly from the council table and goes right to the House of Commons. So I think Deputy Mayor should give us a little bit of a rundown as to how the day went.
Sure.
5 or 6 minutes.
Sure. Yeah.
I know you can talk all day.
I can talk all day. So, and that'll be part of what I tell you. So it was a really surreal experience, you know, to first to be able to represent everyone here in our township, but personally as well, being so involved to Michael wanted me to have say a few words as well. So I got to ramble on for, you know, probably my 5 minutes as well after the swearing in. It's actually a rather simple process. The bus was stuck on the 417. It was about a half hour late getting there. The clerk was going like crazy. It was the first day back and in the new building. So the elevators weren't working properly. The security was backed up and things just weren't going quite as planned anyway. The clerk had to get out as quickly as possible to brief and to work with all the MPs that were going in. So waiting on the bus to get there so that, you know, everyone coming could actually be part of it was nice of them to stop and wait. The swearing in literally takes 20 seconds. It's one of the fastest processes that you could ever imagine. It's done, you know, in a committee room. I think ours was committee room 25. There were a couple of MPs present, mostly volunteers, supporters, friends, family. Probably 100 people there in the room. You know, signing, they had Michael speak both in English and in French. He signed the book. We had lots of people in and out of the room. After that, we then made our way up to, they reserved about 100, close to 100 seats in the gallery for everyone. We got to go up in the gallery and sit. If we wanted to stay in the committee room, we could. They had big, like it's much like this really, but they have big screen TVs on the walls, and you can watch the new house from in there. There was a lad talking on the conservative side when we were sort of taken up to security. It was 12:30. At 10 after 2, he was still speaking. So when you say that I like to speak, I made a comment at the hour in point that I couldn't hold a candle to this guy. And at the hour 50-minute mark, when he thanked everyone and sat down, I was like, oh my gosh, this is crazy. Anyways, the house filled up. Everyone, you know, they said their pleasantries back and forth across the aisle. And then everyone rose as Andrew Scheer walked Michael in. And it was I don't know how his family felt, but it was pretty, you know, you have an immense amount of pride because it's one of our own. Regardless of, I think, which side you sit on, it was a very, very, very cool moment, for lack of better words, to see him walked in. Very surreal to be there and to be part of it, and then to watch him rise and actually ask a question, and in very typical House fashion, the question to be ignored, and whatever answer they felt like giving back, they gave back, and I was like, well, welcome to the show. So, and that was really it. The one last thing that I'll say, and it's an amazement, we spent 15 years renovating that building. They spent probably close to $1 billion fixing it up. Each individual stone by its own stone craftsman with their symbol on the stone, numbered and taken out, redone, put back in place with their symbol on it. I think they replaced 19,000 of the 140,000 stones, but they all still have the Craftsman symbol on them. Pretty cool. We're on the third floor. It starts at floor 0. The house is obviously on floor 2. And you'd think with $1 billion they might put a bathroom on floor 3. No. So you have to go all the way down to floor 0 to get to a bathroom. So of course, in only Tory possible fashion, I had to go to the bathroom. Race down before it starts, and the elevators are broken. I managed to get down in the elevator with the guy who fixes the elevator. I look over, there's a whole bunch of people kind of corralled around it to go back up through security, all that. I just kind of looked at the staircase and I darted up the staircase. Well, typically when you're on this floor, you think you're on ground level 1. So I figured, okay, well, I'm on level 1. So I race up the first set of stairs, and I race up the second set of stairs, which would put me on level 3. A couple guys standing in the hallway, and I said, you know, after you guys. And they're like, no, by all means, you go right ahead. I go storming through the door. Well, it's not level 3, it's level 2. And there's every MP from all across Canada standing there doing all their TV interviews, and there I am staring right at the TV. I casually turned around, fixed my tie, and walked back out and ran up the stairs to level 3 so I could hide in the gallery. It was, but it was a wonderful day. It was a really very proud, very moving moment for Michael and his family, and I know he'll represent us well. So it was pretty cool, and thanks for not going.
Well,
He wouldn't want to run up the stairs.
I hated to miss it, but.
Yeah, I know. It was a really cool experience.
Okay, well, with those few words, and appreciate you going and representing us and bringing greetings on from the township. So we'll proceed to item 2 on the agenda, which is approval of the agenda. Need a mover and a seconder, please.
So moved.
So got the Deputy Mayor Deschamps and seconded by Councillor Cameron. Those in favor? Motion is carried. Item number 3 on the agenda is disclosure of pecuniary interest and the general nature thereof. Are there any disclosures here this evening? No disclosures. And so we're at item 4 on the agenda, discussion items 2019 budget meeting number 3. And so the first sort of little report that we have is the operations budget revisions. And we have that sheet in front of us. And I guess the only thing to note here is that as a result of the additions that we made on our first run through, we've taken the total of the operating expenses from $5,923,000 as they appeared in our last draft to $5,966,940, which in fact is a 2.89% increase over the 2018 budget. But what I don't have is what the increase is over the 2018 actual. I wonder if anybody's worked that out. I just didn't have time to do it.
1%.
What is it?
1%.
So it's 1% over the actual. And
$61,996.
how much?
$61,996.30.
Now, the reason I'm keying in on that is because I always like to look at where we are with our proposed budget relative to where we actually ended our spending last year. Now, there's one other number that I don't have. Again, just ran out of time. What is the relationship between the 2018 budget expenditure and the 2018 actual expenditure? Did you work that one out?
1.87%.
So in fact,
the actual number is 108,456.70.
456.70. Glad you've got the time.
456.
Yeah, but just before I do that, I want to just note, that means then that those 2018 year-to-date actuals were actually represent an over-expenditure of the 2018 budget by 1.87%, $108,000. Okay, so, all right, so your question.
Yes, could I just get some clarification on the new, which would be the number 3, 4A, under stormwater management, the actual is 75,989, where in the last one, it was 85,467. Now, if we had an actual in number 2 session, how can we have a deduction in number 3? Where an actual is an actual, where I would say you would have invoices and billings for $85,000, and now you've only got for $75,000. How does that work?
That, through the chair, that's as a result of a transfer from, for the Mary Street outlet. We had WIP money come forward, and I brought that money forward to offset the Mary Street expenses in 2018.
So we actually got money into.
Yeah, there's
lower-
revenue, there's revenue recognized in this report that wasn't recognized in the previous report.
So
No,
there's
no,
no-
no, no, just a minute now. The statement that there's revenue recognized that wasn't recognized before.
Yep, because this is net of revenue minus, or like expenditures minus any revenue, what you're seeing this column is.
Well, I show the same revenue number.
Yeah, so-
No,
But
just
the
within
actual-
that department,
The actual column is a net number.
in the
Okay.
The
department.
numbers in the 2018 year-to-date actual are net numbers. In other words, there's revenue on one side, expense on the other side, and you've either got an overage or an under budget or an over budget.
So, but does that not mean then that Mary Street was treated as an operating expense rather than as a capital? Because this is the operating budgets that we're looking at here. And it went from on my sheet from the second meeting, it went from 83,867 to 76. I mean, I can understand that the issue might be Mary Street, but I would have thought that would have been a capital.
Okay, I'm gonna have to go back through and see what the actual difference is myself.
And one other.
Yep.
And I also have one other.
There's obviously been an adjustment,
Say
there's
again?
obviously been an adjustment in terms of a cost that was allocated there that needed to be reallocated potentially.
Okay.
But I'll have to do the investigation to determine.
Okay, and the other one I have is under planning, where in the new actual, it's 15,000, and in the previous, it was 43,000, almost 44,000,
Yep.
which, with $28,000 difference.
Yeah. And that specifically is a transfer from reserves to offset the OP review costs.
Okay, so then,
Okay,
excuse me, I didn't mean to
no,
interrupt.
no, you go ahead.
Okay, so then I should be able to see on my reserve sheet a number coming out of reserves,
28,000?
from planning,
Yeah.
out of the planning reserve.
Yeah,
Yeah.
of 28,000.
On the reserve sheet that on the reserve sheet that I got on January the 4th, I showed that the money coming out of the planning reserve was 11,832. Is there an update to that sheet?
That's the balance in the account.
Beg pardon?
That's the balance in the reserve. The amount that came out of the reserve was the 28,000.
28,167, is that right?
Correct.
So do you see that number, 28,000?
Yeah, right beside the 11,832, Mayor, to your lot.
Oh, yes, okay.
Year-end adjustment.
Yeah.
Year-end
And
adjustment.
11,832 is the balance on 1st of January.
Sorry.
Okay, I got that. Yeah, okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so are there any other questions now then now where we see, we now kind of get a comparison of the 2019 ask against the 2018 actual, and the 2018 budget. But we spent 100,000 more in 18 than we expected to spend.
The difference between the 19 budget and the 18 actual as we stand today is $1,833,509.
What's that again?
The 2019 budget over the 2018 actual is $1,833,509.95.
1 million,
That's total. That's total.
That is correct.
1 million?
Yes.
Right.
$1,833,509.95.
And that's 2019 draft,
Over actual as today.
and that's operations plus capital. That's the 9,138,000 versus the 7,177,000.
Yes.
Okay, well, I'm gonna follow the agenda and see where it takes us here. The second item on the agenda, unless there are other questions with this operations budget.
Well, my comment, Mr. Mayor, that, you know, the big difference is in the public works account. And, I mean, we had the issues with repairs to the trucks and the vehicles. And those kinds of things, I guess, you can't plan explicitly for, but they crop up. And the balance of the budget, like of the 19 departments, 15 of them are under budget. So, I mean, the budgeting process, I think, is relatively, you know, sound in that sense. Unfortunately, we got nailed in the vehicles and the public works side, that's all.
Okay, and I think there's one other thing that I want to draw out of this, because one of my original concerns, and I'm just gonna get you to help me understand this. As I'm looking at the 2019 draft, and I appreciate your forbearance with me at the last meeting, because I kind of got stuck in a bad way on a couple of bad numbers. But the actual increase in tax revenue, and I keep thinking of the fact that staff is recommending that we take the full phase-in amount and the full growth amount using the 2018 tax rates. And so when I look at the very first line on that sheet that we've just been looking at, I see that the revenue that we'll bring in was $5,581,198, compared to what we actual brought in 18, which is $4,949,000. Now, did somebody work out that differential, number-wise? I want to know what our actual increase in tax dollars is, because what I'm trying to determine is where it's going. So $5,581,198, subtract $4,949,551.
$631,647.
That's the differential in the tax revenue.
That's right.
Yeah.
And so now we know that 61,000 of that is going to operation, is that what we know? Being the differential between the number at the bottom of the page there, the 5,904 and the 5,966. Mr. Bradley, I think you told me that that was
61,996.
Okay.
61,996.
Okay, so now I know we're 61,996.30 of that 631,000 that Councillor Delavaud just told me about. I know where 61,000 of it went, right? Am I correct there so far? 61,000 of it went to the operating budgets. Am I right about that? Because I'm gonna be looking for where the rest went. Okay, so, 631, 647, 61, 996, 1, 5, 5, 0, 6, 2, 9, 6. So, where did the 569 go? And maybe we'll find, and of course the answer to that should be in the capital. Go ahead.
Before you move on, just, again, I mentioned it before, I think the last couple meetings in it's the OMPF dollars. We're counting on those and we're budgeting those for the same. I've heard rather unofficially that there's gonna be a reduction in the range of 6.5% this year, and quite possibly another 5% next year. So by my math, that dollar value that we're budgeting by the time we get to 2020 goes down to 756 to 257, which, you know, makes a considerable difference too. It's almost another 100,000. So to use those numbers, we know that there's a reduction. I don't think that it's.
You're saying the 1,187,000 is gonna be different,
Yeah, the OMPF.
Well, let's hang on just for 1 second, because I think the treasurer told us that in our draft number, the 2019 draft revenues, I think she said she already built in a number for the decrease. Well, you didn't?
No, I did not. Through the chair, the 47,000 increase that's in there is as a direct result of grant in lieu, not about the OMPF.
Right?
And what I had said in the previous budget meeting is that potentially the 47,000 that I've got built in there will potentially come away with the decrease in the OMPF.
Yeah, in other words, it'll neutralize.
It'll neutralize.
Okay, so,
So I didn't factor it into any of the calculations for capital, because I didn't feel that it was going to potentially stay in the budget.
okay, so let me just report a little bit about what we heard at the Roma conference. First of all, it was stated that we will all get 25% of last year's OMPF amount, that they will cash flow that to us in the next week or so, they said.
Yep, we already have it.
We got it already?
I don't know if we got the money, but we got notification.
We don't know.
Got notification that, so 25% of last year's amount comes. That means that 25% of last year's amount goes to all the municipalities that got it last year. Now, what they also said was that they want to refocus it, and that they're gonna refocus it on northern and rural. Now, at the Eastern Ontario Wardens Caucus, meeting with the ministers, they made the strong pitch that we support Eastern Ontario Wardens Caucus, obviously, rural Ontario at its best, would support it being refocused to northern and rural. And I'm gonna say that that was rather sympathetically received, because there seemed to be a strong feeling among that group of ministers to realize that we in these small rural communities and in the northern communities don't have flexibility in our budgets the same way as a city like Orangeville or Burlington or Oakville or Hamilton or Niagara Falls. So I think that the 6% that you may have heard, if it happens, might be what they take out of the total OMPF pot, which is standing for the last couple of years, I think at $505 million, unless I miss my guess. So, anyway, if your point is, do we have risk there? Yes, we certainly do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we certainly have risk there.
Well, we know it's gonna be lower.
Well, we don't know if it's lower for us.
It will be.
Oh, okay, you're convinced of that, are you?
Yes.
Okay, I'm not. All right, well, we'll see what happens. All right, so now, the next item, I'm winding up the discussion on 4A, now that I've got my picture green, and I'm moving to 4B, which is the 2019 capital budget, and there's one and two. So the first one is source of funding options. So what should I be looking at? What sheet am I looking at here? Because I gotta admit, my sheet's got out of hand, out of order.
Does it have, it should say 4B1?
Yes, 4B1, okay, all right, I got the tab.
So this is the sheet that council had requested. I've used this sheet in prior budgets. That kind of outlines the entire capital budget. In this case, I've done a little bit differently because I was requested to put all the WIP projects at the beginning of the sheet, which you can see there. So the majority of them are already going to be funded by 2018 taxation revenue that was received, or transfers from reserves that was already budgeted in the 2018 budget, all except the Gallup Canal North Bridge. We had only budgeted $49,000 in 2018. The project is actually expected to be $150,000. So there's still money owing, funding from taxation or another source of funding is required to finish that project of 101.
So if we do that project, we need 101,000 out of the 569 that's left. If we do that project. Okay, so if I keep a little sheet at the side here, I don't even have to, because if I go down your sheet quickly, you're telling me that what I need from 2019 taxation, is that not the number at the bottom?
Correct, the 2.8?
2.8,
Yeah.
and I've got 569. No, yes, 569 to work with. Okay, that's the dilemma. So go through your other ones then.
I'm not sure necessarily to go through all the details. We're not pulling from reserves as extensively as we did in 2018. The final row on the bottom is the 2018 budget totals. To just give you a comparative, compared 2019's comparative to 2018's comparative. So our total capital is certainly more than what we had budgeted in 2018. We're drawing less from reserves. We're using slightly less from your gas tax, and there was other grant money that was in 2018 for the 262. Our WIP amount is slightly more than 2018, but the overall funding sources of total revenue outside of taxation is about 500,000 less than what we had supported in 2018. So in 2018, taxation supported capital by almost $1 million.
Say that again now, in
In
2018
2018, we supported capital with almost $1 million
of taxation
of
money.
taxation money,
And now you're asking us to support capital
with 2.8.
with 2.8 million of taxation money.
If I may, Mr. Mayor, I think characterizing it as us asking you to do that is perhaps a bit misleading. We're saying that this is the capital program we have in front of us, and as far as we know, taxation is the only source of revenue that we're aware of at this moment. So we're quite clear that we cannot reasonably expect to fund $2.8 million worth of capital works from taxation. There's no question about that. What we need is some guidance as to what projects might be deferred, how else you might like to fund them, those kinds of things. I think it's...
Okay, so I understand what you're asking me to look at it in a slightly different way. Rather than get into that argument, the way I would approach that would be to say, you've got $631,000 of additional revenue this year over what you had last year in taxation. 61,000 of it has gone to the operating budgets. You have $569,000 left. Now, if the 569 goes to capital, it can't go to reserves. If it goes to reserves, it can't go to capital. Now, one thing that I did ask for is, I know that there was a proposal to build up our reserves this year. So, let's look at what you're anticipating putting in reserves and where you're anticipating putting it, or what your recommendation is as to where you would put it. I can figure out some other ways of saying it. What? I'm saying it wrong.
Yeah, sorry, Mr. Mayor, you're not saying it wrong at all. We have not done the work of proposing where to put the money into reserves.
Oh, you haven't?
For this budget meeting, we were focused on our capital proposal.
Okay, so you're focused on your capital, and do you really want us to prioritize the projects?
We'd like some assistance with that.
I think, well, I mean, on page 2 here of the previous section, it looked like capital transfers to reserves was around $340,000. Correct?
The proposed 2019 budget has that amount.
So, just a minute, I'm lost here right now.
Well, if you go back to the operations page there.
Yeah, and turn it over.
And turn it over and get to the second page.
I got it, I'm there.
You see the capital transfers to reserve?
Yep,
Okay, the 2019 budget, draft budget, envision $340,000 from somewhere going into reserves.
yes,
So of the 500 and some odd that's left,
569?
yep.
you know, I would say at this point in time, 340,000, it would be earmarked for reserves,
Is that correct?
roughly.
Well, there is a difference between what we had done last year and this year, and that's 65,000. So we're only increasing the transfer to reserves by 65,000 in 2019. That would be what I would
Okay,
consider
but-
using the additional revenues.
Okay, so,
Yes,
But-
I stated it wrong.
but I'm on page 2 here, so I see a 2019 draft budget transferring 50,000 to administration, 100,000 to fire department, 150,000 to public works, 15,000 to stormwater management, and 25,000 to recreation facilities. 340, that's what I see,
Yeah.
right?
And the incremental amount is 64,952.
Yeah, but, again, what I'm doing now is I'm comparing everything back to that 569.
Yeah, I know, I realize that.
Okay, so the staff is looking for direction on which of these capital projects. See, and I think that's, to me, that's, well, I mean, if the committee wants to sit here and prioritize these capital projects, you can. My inclination would be to say to staff, you got X dollars to work with. Prioritize them. Now, I don't know what, there's 2 ways of approaching it. We can sit here and we can try to prioritize them, or we can turn that back over to them. What are your druthers? And the chair's looking for direction here. And the big thing you gotta come up with is how much dollars are you prepared to put into them? Are you prepared to go beyond the 569 that you've got? No, you don't have 569. You got 569 less 340 now.
No,
it's
we don't.
65 more.
Don't confuse me.
You got about half a million left.
It's 65.
We got 569.50, right, to spend?
569, 651.
Right. on our capital, is
That's
that right?
Well, just a minute now, because
That's a
on
lot
the-
of money.
as was just pointed out, there's a recommendation that 340 go to reserves.
No,
You need to be looking at the difference, not the total
The
340.
incremental amount is what you gotta look at.
Yeah,
We
the
got about
$65,000.
$500,000 left.
You're telling me, Jack, excuse me, Mr. Bradley, you're telling me that there's only 64 going to reserves?
Or more
64 more.
than last year.
Well, 64 more than last year, doesn't matter how you cut the cake, the only extra money that you've got, oh, wait a minute now. Right.
The $275 in there.
It's the
Yes.
incremental amount.
It's incremental
Yeah.
on that one.
so we have $569,650 for our capital.
Well, for something.
For
For
something.
something.
For something.
And another 64,000. Yeah, you got about 500,000 for capital.
Yeah,
I'm
to
with you.
allocate it.
And we have $2,831,400 of capital total.
Look,
If I may, Mr. Mayor, just, let's not forget that we typically tax for about $1 million worth of capital every year. So we would continue to tax for that $1 million typically. Potentially, what we'd be looking at is having 1.5 million to spend on capital. Or 1,500,000 into reserve. I know that's oversimplification.
I know, but you're asking us to raise the tax rate.
Not if you stick to the 1 million that we spent last year. That's based on the same 2018 rate.
Yeah?
incremental again.
Incremental again.
Yeah.
Could you help me? Where are we gonna get the million?
From the tax rate. The tax rate that we applied in 2018 produced $998,000 worth of capital work in 2018. It will produce that again this year.
Like, this is just this sheet that we're looking at now is a list of possible capital projects.
Yeah.
And it says nothing about where the revenue's coming from or anything else. Okay. And so it totals up, losing my voice, but it totals up to 2.8 million.
Right.
So if we tax for roughly $1 million, then we have to look for an additional 1.8 million. Now, we can say, I don't want to take up all the time here, but we could say that, well, that's too much, guys. We got to cut it back to 1 point whatever, okay? Or we can say, what is the tax rate going to go to get the 1.8? What does it have to go to get 1.5? Et cetera, et cetera. We've done that kind of thing before, iterations on the tax rate. And then we'd have to say to ourselves, what is the prime function of the municipality? It is to look after infrastructure and that kind of, like, we know what that is, so I don't need to repeat it. But, so we look at what our prime objective is and say, okay, how much of that can we fulfill with the amount of money that we feel we want to either increase the tax rate or live with to meet the 2019 program. So there's a few more iterations we've got to go through, I think, to arrive at that kind of conclusion. So that, I think what staff is suggesting is that we just look at this list and decide, do we think that these are warranted at this point in time? And if they're not, we can kick them off to another year or cancel them or whatever. And the 2.8 will come down to something else.
Okay,
But do we want to get into like a deep dive into the weeds on some of these projects? I mean, first of all, I don't know enough, about some of the individual projects to comment on them even.
that's my problem too.
Yeah. I mean, some of them look to me to be quite reasonable. Some of them look to be expensive, but that's my lack of knowledge on the individual item.
when you look at things like buyout excavator, 99,000. I mean, it seems to me that that's kind of a no-brainer.
Is that a lease that we're
It's a
having?
lease, yeah.
And
It's a lease
is the
that's
lease
coming.
ended?
Yeah.
Coming to an end?
Yeah.
So we have options here though. I mean, we can buy it out for 99,000 and then turn around if we feel it's not meeting our needs to do the job, we can turn around and sell it, buy another one or lease another one or whatever. So I don't know, I would hope that the folks in staff would research that kind of thing and come with a recommendation that obviously optimizes the dollars. You know?
So have
I
we
just-
done that? On just taking that one, that buyout of excavator, I mean, we don't have to buy it out. Can we just turn it back?
And we could turn it back and lease a new one. That's gonna change our operating budget.
Yep.
obviously.
Mhm.
But those are the kinds of conversations that we'd like to have with council. We presented you with an overview here. We're happy to provide you with background information on each of those items. In fact, in past meetings, we have, in some cases, given you that background information. How you want to approach it, we're happy to do.
Like for somebody who lived and died by budgets all his working life, I think the committee, this is a committee in the sense, okay? Then we need to have these discussions. Now, I don't mind getting down into the weeds, but I need information. But there may be other folks in the council and on the committee that don't feel like that. So I think that may be what needs to be resolved before we go anywhere.
Okay, and that's basically what I said. Your two choices are get down in the weeds
Yeah.
or turn it back to staff for priorization. And
I think our administration staff has did what we often asked them to do. They presented to us the different operating capital projects that are available within the township for do, our roads department's picked them things for do. We're elected by the people to make decisions here on what we're gonna do. There, we need to go through these and pick out the things that we've got over $1 million of road budget here of different roads and stuff on here for resurfaces and correcting here. Obviously, in our situation here, under surface treatment and joint project and gravel to surface treatment and resurfacing roads, if over $1 million there, if we're gonna cover the capital budget, some of these gotta go. We can't do them all this year. Simple as that. We gotta make a choice which one's in the worst shape. I don't mind saying right off, probably of all the roads, the things that need to be done, the road that's in the worst shape is the Pittston Road. It's probably the one that's falling apart the worst. It's the most money on there. So obviously it's the road that's in the worst shape because it's going to cost the most to bring it back to the thing. We need to
see,
feedback.
the counterpoint to that argument is Weir Road, and Weir Road is, again, I would like to know the comparative traffic counts, but Weir Road, I think, is a lot more heavily traveled with a higher traffic count, and the proposal is to use $220,000 of tax grant money and only $67,000 of taxation. And in my mind, when you do that, you're solving a greater need than Pittston Road. It's just straight traffic count. Can you comment on traffic count?
Through the chair, at the first budget meeting, one of the tabs spoke about the capital budget for consideration, and it had a description that indicated the traffic count, all the reasons behind why a particular road was chosen, right? So I think probably reviewing that will answer a number of questions. So there's
Okay, so now's your chance to do it.
Certainly, there's no doubt that Weir Road has the highest traffic count of the rural roads in the township. So, if you have more vehicles traveling on that and the road's in poor shape, you wanna fix that road first as opposed to a traffic count of 99, for instance. I'd have to check the, yeah, so Pittston Road west, the traffic count there was in between 200 to 300 vehicles a day. And Weir Road was just under 1,000.
Oh, that much different.
So there's that much difference, but Pittston Road is also 4.5 kilometers versus 1.8 kilometers of Weir Road. So you've got to take all those details in, right? You could potentially do a section of Pittston Road west, the worst section, which is probably Young to Hutton.
You're saying Pittston Road west. We did from 44 east from 44.
You did 44 to Young,
Yes.
okay? Which is, there's three sections of what we would call Pittston Road west. So it's west of 20,
Oh, west of
22.
22.
Yeah.
So,
3 sections.
there's 3 sections. So we're
44 to Young,
was completed.
Young to.
Young, so this budget proposes completing from Young to County Road 22.
Oh, to 22.
To 22.
Whole length.
Yeah, the whole length. So if you know, there's options there if you wanna just do one section of that. And probably the worst section of that is between Young and Hutton.
Okay, so now we're on this, I'm gonna stay on it for a minute.
Sure.
So where does Ventnor Road come in there with traffic count?
Ventnor Road comes in at 250 vehicles a day.
Okay, so not the same degree of degradation either.
No.
Am I right about that?
Same as Pittston.
That would be correct. Sorry?
It's the same as Pittston. 250, you said?
With vehicle counts, yes.
Yeah.
Yes, but I would consider Pittston Road in worse shape than Ventnor Road.
Yes.
How many clicks is Ventnor?
1.7 kilometers.
Okay, so, all right, so I would go, going back to you, I would go the opposite of you, I would go Weir and a piece of Pittston.
But you gotta look at, we can do all the traffic studies you want for numbers. If you just do we're just gonna pave every road that's the highest number road.
No, and the worst conditions.
Yeah, but there you're not taking the worst condition, because Weir Road isn't in that bad a condition. There's a few-
Well, it
few
is.
bad spots on it, but it's not that bad. If you compare it with Pittston,
I would argue that the road study indicates that Weir Road is in poor condition. That there's not much variation in the overall condition. So,
You're saying Weird Road is worse than the Pittston Road of that 4.5 clicks
what,
that we're talking about? Like, or even, let's go from Young to Hutton.
what I am saying is that both roads are poor.
Yeah.
So when both roads are poor, then you need to go down to the next variable that's included. So you would go traffic count.
But,
So one's 1,000, one's 200.
okay,
So if you're looking from a safety aspect, if you have more vehicles traveling on that particular road, then you would want to improve that road faster than you would want to improve a road with a less of a traffic count. From a risk liability standpoint.
Yeah.
And that's basically what this is. Would be Weir, Pittston, and Ventnor. Would be the order that,
could we go Weir and Young to Hutton, like you said, this year?
we can do.
Because that is-
We can do whatever committee would like.
But
done.
really, from Hutton to 22 isn't that bad. And it's only what, half a kilometer? Kilometer?
No, it's,
Be a kilometer.
I do apologize that in that particular part, I don't have that broke down.
Okay,
So,
but I would
but
think
it's a little bit, I would think it's a kilometer and a half.
Okay, kilometer and a half then. So it's not that far from Hutton to 22 or 9 Mile, whatever.
No,
That's where
the
you're
big-
saying we're stopped.
That would be.
So that's not that bad. I think it's from Young to Hutton is really bad.
That is
Do you
in
agree,
worse condition.
Counselor
Yeah.
Hunter?
That is
Yeah,
in
I
worse
agree.
Where's the
condition.
road in the
Yeah.
township?
So could we go Weir and do from Young to Hutton? Because we already have that bridge all done,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Dave?
Yes.
We already have the bridge done, so you're just coming, not even around the corner to Hutton. You know what I'm saying?
Correct, we would
Yeah.
just be around the corner past
Right.
that bridge that was redone and resurfaced.
Which would be, well, about 3 kilometers, I would think. From Young to there,
About that,
yeah.
3 point, so, yeah, sorry, I didn't, I thought I broke those two sections out, but I didn't.
So what treatment does the Weir Road, what do you propose the treatment? Cold place?
It would be your hot mix.
Hot mix and the same for Pittston?
Same for Pittston.
And is that the way we treated Pittston from 44 to Young?
That is correct.
Hot mix, okay.
Mr. Mayor, I'm just looking at the Ventnor and Weir roads. One is 3.4 kilometers, and the repair cost would be $236,000. The Weir road is less than half that, and it's roughly the same, $287,000. So is it the difference in the treatment on those two roads?
Sorry.
I'll have to confirm that one.
You're proposing for the Weir Road grinded and resurfaced, are you?
Sorry?
You're proposing the Weir Road to ground and resurfaced?
Yes.
Any sub-base?
Probably be about 6 to 8 inches of granular added before the.
Cross culverts ready?
The majority of the cross culverts have been replaced.
And what about Pittston?
Pittston, no, they would need to be done.
Dave, would that be grind and resurface too, Pittston? Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Pittston needs to be
And I
rebuilt.
would anticipate that there'd be
Well, I was
there'd be
wondering
more.
that.
I'm sorry?
Needs a new base.
Yeah, never had a base.
Either that or there's a lot of water or something under there, I don't know.
Well,
So-
never properly built.
So right now the discussion is, what's the base of Pittston like?
In some spots, it's very poor.
So,
There'd be some additional spot repairs in sections,
okay,
but
so
not overall.
do we ever get ourselves in a project where we spend 1 year where we take up the pavement, completely repair the base, let the base sit over the winter, and then pave the next year?
Not typically.
We don't. We try to do it all at once.
Certainly the preference would be that we would replace the cross culverts as required the year prior, so they have 1 year of settlement, and then perform the resurface. However, if we don't have a forecast and a confidence level that those jobs are going to be done in the following year, you don't want to leave that for an extended period of time.
Well, I mean, we may not, the big thing is, we may not get roads sequenced year after year, but I think you folks have a pretty good idea on where the priorities are, so, I mean, even with this that we see in front of us, you've given us basically a priority list, although they're not listed 1, 2, 3, they're 1, 3, 2. Let's just go, I mean, this is what I call down in the weeds. You know, we're down in the weeds here now. Go ahead, get in there.
I'd just like to go up to the bridges and culverts in the WIP. We're looking to take out 101,000 from taxation in 19 rather. I have to apologize, I haven't looked at this bridge. Now, this is the bridge that goes across the canal up at near where the Weehawk dive site is that,
Yes, and there's two bridges there, this is the first one.
there's two bridges there? Where's the first bridge?
The first bridge goes across the first thing of water to the little island, and the second bridge is the hump bridge that's partially closed.
First one's concrete.
It's a footbridge.
First one's all concrete, and it's got the slats in it that they can dam up the water.
Oh, yes, okay, on the east bridge, and then the one that goes over the Stone Canal, we'll say. Now, which one are we talking about?
The first,
Okay, the concrete bridge.
yeah.
Okay, sorry, and we're going to put pedestrian railings on? Is that all? we're going
Change
to do?
pedestrian railings.
Well, it just says, I just have pedestrian railings here.
Okay,
Okay.
there's railing there now, I think the idea was that it had to be, well,
Yes, there's a wire.
I mean, I just find that, I don't know where that number came from, 150,000 to change railing.
Yeah.
Well, I'd have to say directly from the engineer,
Yeah, well,
from the design and completion, so.
yeah, but did he do a design on it? I mean, he give you a Class D estimate?
Yes, there's a design done. It was in the bridge and culvert study report. And that's what we went by. I did speak with the engineer as I was not pleased that the initial report indicated around the $50,000 mark. And that's what we put in for the budget, and come to find out that it's triple that when the truer costs estimates come in.
So
As
where
I
did
said-
the cost estimates come from then?
The same engineer.
So one report gives you 49, the next one gives you 101? Or the next one gives you
Gave
150?
me basically 150, yes.
Let's get another engineer.
That's,
I mean, how do they do this?
Would one engineer give us 50 grand, another one give us 150?
Same one gives
Same
twice.
one.
Same one gave us, he
Correct.
looked at it first time, gave us 50, is that right?
That was the cost estimate contained within the report, yes.
And then he came back and said, oh.
So we went to that design phase, budgeted for the 50,000, and with the design phase in progress, it come back higher, and that's why it was stopped.
Was the design
This time.
upgraded a lot, or?
It certainly will allow much safer area with that railing, but it's once again, it's all a matter of what the risk liability you want to adhere, right? It's defective. This was a solution.
Seems like it went from a Chevy to a Cadillac here all of a sudden, so.
Mr. Chair, can we work either in the weeds from the top to the bottom or the bottom to the top and not all over the place?
Go ahead.
Like we started on the roads and then we went up to the bridge, so I don't care, but I'd like to, can we start maybe from the bridge then go down?
Go ahead.
Well, I'm just saying that, okay, so the bridge, I mean, 101,000, can we get another engineer, Dave, report from a different company?
Certainly.
Or do you recommend it?
Certainly, we certainly can.
Do you recommend it, or have you used this guy before,
This is the firm that we've been using over the last 6 years to do our bridge and culvert inspections. So,
same company?
same company. So we can certainly, we can certainly look for another estimate.
How close has he been in his estimates over the last 6 years? Bang on or over under?
Well, you didn't do very good at this one.
Well, we really haven't had another project, I guess other than the Pittston Road culvert replacement.
Yeah,
That was,
come in on budget.
and it did come in on budget. Little higher than we were hoping, but it did come on,
They
did
told
come
us
in on
that
budget.
already at the start of it, so.
Sorry?
It was told right at the start of it, when we first tendered it, that that's what it was gonna be. Didn't jump from 50 to 150, so.
What changed so drastically to make it go from 50? And is it still doable?
I'm going to say within that year, there was another location where they had a similar design that went out to tender and the prices come back.
So it was just wrong on the 50, is that the idea?
Well, I'm going to say, yes, he was wrong.
Okay, it wasn't that there was an initial design done at the 50 and then an upgrade to get it to
No,
150? It was
no,
just
it was an
Bad
estimate,
estimate.
and another location in eastern Ontario, they went out for bid on that project, and it come back in around that, right around that number, so. So I would say that certainly the 150 is certainly very close to the cost of what that similar project came in. However, if you
Not gonna
want.
be cheaper this year, that's for sure, with the way the price of steel's went in the last 3 months, so.
No. So, but if committee would prefer another design and quote, we can certainly.
What's it cost?
Well, we'll have to look at different options, right? I'm not an engineer, right? You certainly can't you can't replace the railing that's existing now with the same.
No, what I'm saying is, what's it cost to get another engineer report, a different company, roughly,
Or to get an estimate.
I can.
for an estimate?
I don't know, let's say 3,000 to 5,000.
I would like
Get
to
a- get a-
spend
to get a
4,000 or
preliminary.
5,000 myself.
Okay, so, I'm gonna park that for a second. Go ahead.
Is it in, I mean, it's been delayed 1 year, from last year to this year. Is it doable to delay it one more and still be safe?
My question is, why are we replacing a railing? It's a cable guard in steel posts. What does he think is wrong with it?
The steel post structure is failing.
It's failing. What does that mean?
What, excuse me,
Eh?
can you rephrase the question? I'm not sure what you.
Well,
So, as, you know, I guess what it's saying is that the structural component is not as structurally strong as it used to be.
He could do that now in this kind of weather, give us an estimate, right?
Yes,
Or another company, I mean, can
another
come down.
company can provide an estimate.
Pardon me?
I said that certainly another company can provide an estimate on design and cost, but
I kinda like
certainly right now is not the time to be attempting to go and do a detailed review of the railing and the structure in the middle of winter with all the snow we've
No,
had.
no, but I
But,
mean,
we can certainly provide some of the information that we have, that they can use as a, you know, as a template to bring back.
I would like myself to have another engineer report.
I'm sort of second that, but can I ask I'd like to see a different approach here. But I have a question. We redid a bridge on Frederick Street 3 years ago, maybe 4. Can you get us the cost of that Frederick Street bridge? For those of you that don't know, it is north on Frederick Street, over the railroad tracks, there's a bridge. We did the rails on both sides. I'd like to know what Frederick Street cost us. I'm gonna use that as my comparator. And I'd like to know who did it, the company that did it.
certainly. Or I believe that must be 5, 6 years ago now.
That
At
long?
least.
Yeah.
Before me.
Before my time in this role, in this position.
Hmm?
I said it's before my time in this position.
Really?
Yeah, it was,
Oh, I remember like it was yesterday.
where did the time go?
Okay, well, we can allow for inflation or time, but how many are of the opinion that they would like to see another look at this Gallup Canal North Bridge pedestrian railing cost? One, two, getting a lot of nods here. So I've got consensus to take that to another look. All right, I'm gonna follow Counselor,
Can I, say something?
go ahead.
We're having another look at it. We have an engineer's report of what he says needs to be done to it. Could we not have, probably it wouldn't cost as much of anything to have somebody like Johnny Mulder that's in the business of creating these railings, just take a look at, ask him to take a look at what the engineer's report and give us a kind of a rough estimate of what he thinks it would actually cost to do it?
Well, that's a good,
Be fine.
let's find out whether, did the engineer do a design?
A design has been completed for the.
Okay, so why don't we give him, now, you gotta remember that by giving him the design, if we put it out for public tender, is he still allowed to tender on it?
Why not? Anybody can, you're all gonna have the design, so.
Mr. Mayor, why don't we just put it out for tender?
That's,
We have the design, put it out for tender, see what the number is, and choose whether or not to do it this year based on that.
provided the tender document is clear, lowest or any not accepted. I mean, I would
Is that
be in
possible?
favor of that.
Yeah.
I would do that.
Are we in a position to do that?
I believe we are. We can get that in relatively quickly.
Nice thing about it is we've already got 49,000 towards it. And if it comes in at 49, we do it. And it doesn't cost us a penny. How would you feel about that? We've got the design, it's ready for, in other words, we've got the tender specs. We can go to the market, see what the market wants to do with it.
Perfect.
Perfect.
Yes?
Yeah.
Okay, so you got consensus to tender now. So that's, I've got a big question mark beside that one on my page. I'm gonna follow Councillor Dillabaw's urging that we go down the list. Stone Hall fence, Town Hall stone fence. I don't know the ill, what's the ill? I thought we just had it rebuilt.
The iron portion was reinstalled.
Yeah?
But if you notice at the front of the town hall, the stone pillars are starting to chip in, as stone pillars often do. This project absolutely does not have to be done this year, but is for sure something that will need to be done. That fence is in bad need of repair and repointing.
Okay, so when I hear that, my first thing is, next item?
And if I may, Mr. Mayor, if we're going to insist that other folks keep the exterior of their property looking wonderful, we maybe should not.
Oh,
throw stones on the glass house.
Right in the heart.
There you go.
Oh.
I don't really think it's that bad yet.
But it is only $15,000.
Well, that's the other side of it.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I'm putting a question mark beside that one.
Put a check mark.
You're putting a check mark. A yes or a no or a check? Okay. All right, so now I'm going down to the next one. Fire Department capital. Replace van 1375, replace hydraulic spreader 17.9. I'll go for the 17.9.
If I may,
I
Mr. Mayor?
I just want to clarify something. The hydraulic spreader, I'm assuming, is an instrument to spread iron apart from a collision or a crack or something like that. It's
It is correct. The jaws of
an
life.
extraction tool.
New jaws of it.
Yeah.
You may want to park that discussion until you see the next item 4C, I think on the agenda, is an alternative to that.
4C, okay, so park this one. So this one is park, and I'm now down to stormwater management, Smith Road culvert, 300 grand. Now, what's the deal there?
We were, this particular culvert was identified once from
Okay, just a second. Okay, Councillor Dillabaugh?
Why did we park, the fire department capital?
Because there's an action item further down the agenda that has a possible change to that number that we may as well talk about it all at once.
Oh, okay, I see what you're saying. Okay, thank you.
So, now I'm at the Smith Road culvert.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is a result of concerns identified during a visual inspection performed by our in-house staff following a beaver dam removal on this one. And what it was determined was that the bottom of the culvert was actually rotten, basically rotten. Degraded, there was actually no structure left on it. We had our company that does our bridge and culvert inspections in confirm that, and his recommendation is that it's replaced, not with like, but using a cement box, precast cement box culvert style. And the estimate, the initial estimate provided was $300,000 to have that replacement done. So
Okay.
what we're
And I'm gonna challenge the recommendation, not challenging you, challenging the recommendation. I'm gonna ask a question. Because one of the things that United Counties does with a lot of these big steel culverts, where the bottoms go out, we fill the bottom up with that much concrete. And the concrete prevents any further deterioration of the steel, provides a whole new bottom to the thing, and basically holds everything in place for a lot longer. Do we ever do anything like that? And why didn't he give us that kind of a recommendation? I mean, I know he's,
certainly, I would think initially he's looking at longevity, and I would think that if he's putting an engineer stamp on it, that I don't think he would want it just pumped full of concrete and hopefully that it will extend for 40 years.
we got an engineer stamp at the county.
Well, I guess as an option, we could certainly have the county engineer take a look at it and
No,
stamp it. and-
no, I'm not suggesting it's his problem, it's our problem.
Yeah, with all due respect, I'm not an engineer. I'm going to look at taking the advice of the engineer. There are some options that we could do. You could look at a twin pipe. You could look at like an arch style of corrugated steel pipe, similar to what we did with the Pittston Road twin culverts, and make it into one arch culvert. There are some options. And I'm not sure if that's gonna mean instead of 300,000, that it's 200,000. This has come up relatively quick. We're trying to coordinate a meeting with MTO, because it's kind of whether we're going to be in their right of way as part of this project to get that replacement culvert done. So there's a lot of moving variables that I don't have a solid price. I've got an initial price right now, and it will probably refine itself over the next few months once we get more information.
This kind of discussion is quite worthwhile, but it also, like, we're at the budget stage, so if we budget 300,000 and the Public Works Department proceeds to do the work down the next few months, and the actual bill comes in at 200,000, we've over budgeted by 100,000. Not only have we over budgeted by 100,000, but somewhere down the road, we've taxed for that. So this is why, before we get into, like, my suggestion was that before we get into deciding about that item, we gotta get down into the weeds, because it's the public that are gonna pay for that, not us. We don't have any money. So we have to keep that in mind when we're looking at these items. And, with all due respect, the public works people are doing the job the proper way. You get an engineer to look at it, you get the move from the conceptualization to the design phase, and then you get to the quote phase, okay, where you're gonna actually kind of find out what the numbers are looking like. But we're trying to budget for that long before we've even got to the first step. So that presents a problem, and has over the last 4 years when we do these budgets, because we end up taxing for this stuff.
What bothers me is the design phase. And the design phase it gets me every single time. Because I know that engineers will always, always, always design to the higher level solution.
They have to.
They have to. They have to be directed
Due diligence.
to find the cheaper solution.
You're right.
They have to be
That's
directed
right.
there.
Yeah.
So if you don't direct them there, they're going to always give you the Cadillac, always, because that's their training.
That's right. Mr. Mayor, is that the same company that we used for the 100,000 on the Gal Canal railing?
Yes, it is.
By golly, he likes throwing 100,000s around, doesn't he? I don't know, like, maybe we should look into having a second opinion. Just at least keep him honest.
It's gonna be the budget process, it's gonna keep them on the budget, because it's us, we gotta fix the design, so.
Yeah, but again, I mean, you gotta remember,
Well,
once he gives you the design and everybody's tendering to the same design, you don't have any, once he gives you the design and everybody's tendering to the design, the prices may come in like this, but more likely to come like that. Where you really save the money is in the desigin.
That's what I'm saying. We
Where
need to pick
where
the
is
design
that,
we want. Tell
Dave?
him what we want.
Exactly,
engineer
where is
for.
that?
Sorry, if I may, through the chair, the Smith Road culvert, at $300,000, is a lot of money, no question about that, but we also know from the Pittston Road culvert, from the one on Gooden Road, from different ones we've done over the past several years, $300,000 is not out of the ballpark for that kind of work. And we also know that that's a pretty critical, potential failure. That is a very, we know that that's a very critical, piece of infrastructure that has come up suddenly, as the Director of Operations mentioned. We didn't realize it was in that bad shape until we cleared that beaver dam out of it. I think it really needs to be looked at. And your point is well taken. Sometimes we use the same consultant for a number of years and they get, for lack of a better word, lazy.
Oh, that's the right word.
But to answer Mr. Bradley's question, we budget $300,000, it costs $200,000. We can certainly put the extra $100,000 into next year's bridge work. It's not that we don't ever need that money.
No, I recognize that, it's just that it's.
So it can be whipped forward, we have all kinds of ways of managing. None of us in this room are qualified really to speak to whether or not the engineer's estimate is correct at this point. And we apologize for that. We try to do these things 2, 3, 5 years out, but this one is a bit unusual.
I guess the point I was trying to get at is that we're doing 2019. We should be looking at the projects that we think we want to do in 2020 and maybe 21, and start to scope those projects now.
And that is item
So
4B.
that when we get to the point of doing a budget, we've got our data and everything ready.
And I absolutely concur. Absolutely.
Well, would it be fair, I don't know, maybe I'm talking out of turn. Would it be fair to have another engineer look at it? Or do we go with him at 300? You're saying it's reasonable. I say it's a lot of money.
It is a lot of money, no question, no question.
Through the chair, I just, question on the Miller Road there. get why we're getting a box culvert, because I imagine the engineers looking at a traffic road and a box culvert's the quickest solution to correct it, where if you're putting in double culverts like we did in Pittston Road, we're talking probably a month shut down the road, where this is talking maybe a week shut down the road maximum. Because the precast to cover the head, it's a matter of digging it out, and 3 days turnaround, they got the culvert in and traffic going over it. I say where they come, but there is a substantial variance between the cost of what a double pipe culvert's gonna be in there and a box culvert. I think that's what I say about design, is up to us as a council to decide, do you go a design that restricts the road flow for a month, or do you pay the extra dollars and go for a design that keeps traffic flowing in 4 to 5 days, which is, to us, is the most important for your ratepayers. One of the things you gotta take into consideration on that road, that culvert's to the south of the Mulligan Quarry, where Kerr's Construction is ground gravel steady to our rail yard out there. So if you shut that culvert off, they're gonna have to go all the way around by Yocum Road and out and come out 44 to get there, which
Yeah, but
will
that
cost-
can be timed.
Yeah.
That can be timed. I mean, that can be signed and, you know, lots of advance notice given and can be done in the time when there's no school bus running. I mean, all of that inconvenience thing can be timed. Again, by a good engineering firm that gets involved. And we shouldn't, I mean, I would think that we shouldn't have to direct our staff to know that we want to do it at the best possible price. And if it's a little bit of, I mean, what is the traffic count on a place like Smith Road? Could it not be closed for 2 weeks, 3 weeks?
Who?
Well, I mean, that's
So
what,
through-
the other types of culverts, that's what you're looking at.
So through the chair, you're correct, and I believe I started off by saying that this come up really quick. Here's a number, okay? I'm not saying that's the number, it could be much less, and we'll have to look at those particular options on the placement with the precast cement culvert versus, you know, a twin pipe, a single arch, and what those times are and those particular items. But the reality is, I'm almost sensing that you would have preferred me to wait until April or May, when I had all these figures, come back and say, well, it's going to be 245,000, but you already passed your budget.
Well, we haven't passed the budget yet.
In April?
Hmm?
No, what I'm saying is I'm giving you some advance
Yeah.
warning.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
on there.
yeah. And you know what?
Okay, hopefully within the next few weeks, I'll have some better information and something that we can, you know, discuss a little bit more on whether we want to look at a different option than what the engineer recommended.
Okay,
The
so.
engineer's certainly not saying that he refuses to look at another option. On the top, he said, quickest, longevity, boom, precast cement box culvert. Get you the years, get you know, get the job, you're in and out, and you're done. I said, okay, let's start there. So I have a number. Now we're working into some additional details.
Can we run into problems with 16 highway with the MTO?
That is part of the things that is complicating, is attempting to get MTO representation to the table as we work through some of these items.
So you're having trouble?
Let's just say they're not overly excited to come to a meeting or give us some dates for a meeting.
Let me know. We have people to talk to. Okay, so what's your druthers here? Is it included in draft one or not?
I think it's gotta be. I think it's gotta be fixed.
All right, included. All right, moving on.
One question before we leave that, I'd like, Mr. Mayor, through your public works, you say this come up all of a sudden. We have these culverts all studied every 4 to 5 years. We have a survey engineers look at all these culverts. How did they not pick this culvert out 4 years or so ago when we did the study of all our culverts, that it was in that bad a shape? It didn't deteriorate that quick, so.
Yeah, so through the chair, yes. So the typical, the culverts and bridges that are required every 2 years are a three, I believe it's a 3 meter span. This is under that, and what was not identified as one.
So it's not one of the ones that gets
It's
a
not,
regular
it is
inspection.
not one of the ones, but it will be one of the items moving forward that's added to those inspections, maybe not on an every 2 year term, but it's one of those in between that are larger than what we would typically inspect in-house.
Okay, I'm moving down the list. Now I got recreation. Stairs to the Cardinal Pool, they're phoning me already. I've had emails already. Are we gonna get our steps to the pool? Floor scrubber for the Cardinal Arena. What's a scrubber?
That's the walk-behind floor scrubber that cleans the change rooms and the lobby every night.
And what's the ill that it's?
The existing one that we have is in bad shape. It's 6 years old and is used 2 and 3 times a day, and it's just worn out.
Spencerville.
It does the walking track as well, sorry.
Spencerville Arena chiller. What's a chiller?
The chiller is the machine in the compressor room that basically cools down the liquid ammonia as it goes through the compressor.
What ill is it fixing?
It has a shelf life of 20 to 24 years, and this is we're on year 25 for that right now.
Is that TSSA, Mike?
Sorry?
Is that TSSA too, has something
Yes,
to do
it
with the
is.
chiller?
Yes.
Mandatory?
Yeah. It's inspected every year by TSSA, but Simcoe Refrigeration is recommending. The problem is, if it shuts down, if we have a collapse of it, and it's shut down, we'll be shut down for 3 months. It's not something that Simcoe or McDonald Black would have on the shelf to say, oh yeah, we can just put one of those in the course of a week. So it's either fix it before it breaks, or wait till it breaks and then have a shutdown.
So you fix it, or you do it in the off-season then?
Yes, the plan would be to have it done in May or June of this year.
Spencerville Arena lighting. You gotta jump in.
Yeah, so what's the overall, like, we're looking, the new one would have a lifespan of, again, 25 years?
That's correct.
And the arena has a lifespan of how much longer? Realistically?
Realistically, 8 to 10 years.
What's wrong with the lighting?
The arena lighting, the current induction lighting now, we put these lights in, I believe it was 12 years ago, through a grant with Hydro One. They're an induction light, and those lights are now no longer made, so we're not able to purchase any replacements for them anymore. We're down to, we have 2 spares left. It's just the ever-changing light fixture scenario that's been going on over the last 5 to 7 years. And we are topped out as being able to find a resource to be able to get that section of that system of
We
lights.
changed them all.
That's correct,
Now we gotta change them all again?
yes.
Probably 10 years down the road, we'll change them all again. You look something else new.
Holy night. And 20 grand?
That's correct.
Can you wait?
Can we wait?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
That's like I said, right now, there's one out that's in the middle of the arena, and it's not on, and it's not replaceable, because we don't have we don't have the full fixture for it. So it's just, it's sitting open.
Do a lot of other arenas have this type of lighting?
Not typically, no. No.
got stuck with?
Well, I wouldn't say we got stuck with it. There were some companies that had them. They were more in the big commercial plants, they were using them. There are arenas that have them, but they're going with the LEDs now is what they're doing.
So we can't buy the lights from the other arenas?
No, we
Get them
can't.
to replace their
No.
light?
Once they go, you have to change everything, Mike?
That is correct. Yeah,
It's not like
all
a
one-
Bow's and old
No,
days.
it's all one unit.
Close.
It's all in one.
That's correct. And when those ones get replaced, they have to be shipped back because there's mercury in them. So we're not able to say, take the one down and save it for a potential fixture for another location. Once
They
they're-
have Merkley, the one
Yes,
that we have up there now?
that's correct.
Yeah, that's days.
It's 154,000 to the taxpayer.
That is correct.
Okay, I'm,
Look at the stairs, look at, Mr. Mayor, can we just, look at the stairs to the Cardinal Pool?
So
Are
who
they,
cannot get
at
out of
the
the-
shallow end?
Yeah, currently right now, through the chair, currently right now at the Cardinal Arena, there's no steps to get into the shallow end. If you go to the
It's a
Johnstown.
ladder, right?
No, an actual walk down stairs. So if you go to the Johnstown pool, when you first walk in, right there on your right-hand side, there's a set of steps
Yeah.
that people can walk down into the shallow end.
Yeah.
That, they don't have that at the Cardinal Pool.
So they just have a chrome ladder going into the
Yeah,
pool?
that is correct.
So-
So a lot of the seniors have difficulty getting out of the water.
Yeah.
It's sometimes not as hard to get in, because they'll just sit down on the side of the.
So what do you do here? You drain, the pool's drained, and so you.
We would drain the pool and have.
And you form it then and pour concrete or
That is
whatever.
correct.
It's a gunite pool, right?
Pardon me?
Is the pool a gunite pool?
Yes.
Oh. Seems like a lot of money. What is it, 4 steps?
There's 4 steps, that's correct. Yep.
Seems
Did you get an
expensive.
estimate for that, Mike?
Yes, we do have an estimate.
Okay.
This,
is the estimate in writing?
Pardon me?
Is the estimate in writing?
No, it's a verbal. It's through our current pool company that does all our pool work. There's 2 separate companies. There's Benson Pools and there's Donley Pools out of Ottawa. And Benson Pools, the one where I've got the quote, and as well as a quote came from.
Well, they're not quotes if they're not in writing.
We have a quote from 2 years ago, but we don't have a current quote. Just a verbal.
Mr. Mayor, we're talking about taxing for all this. This 17,000 for stairs and I believe part of the decking there is included in that price for the stairs too. We have a reserve, hydro reserve there that can only be used for Cardinal all the time. Why can't we take the 17,000 out of that to pay for this instead of taxes?
That's a question for the Cardinal, that's a question for the Cardinal reps to answer, not me. I wouldn't touch it.
I would have no problem.
That's what it's supposed to be used for. This is
That
the
is-
Cardinal
you're
pool, so
absolutely
why not-
correct.
Aren't using it
You're
for
bang on the money.
We're not making any money letting it sit and we get
Yeah.
1% or something, so when we got projects as this in Cardinal, why aren't we using it? We used it up to put the meters in, so it didn't cost Cardinal residents nothing for their meters, so
Okay, so put a circle around that one.
I'd put a tick mark beside it.
So Cardinal Reserve.
Should, that would be a good place for that, yes.
Okay, now what about the other things, the 7, the 110, and the 20?
Are there other options for the 110, Mike?
No.
Nothing. I mean, they're saying it has to be done.
What, no, they're not saying it has to be done. They're saying that it's already past its life expectancy.
Right.
And that if you don't do it, there won't be a short fix.
Right.
So if it goes down, then, I mean, you know, it could go down 3rd week of March and then we're okay. It could go down the 1st week of November and we're shut down for 3 months.
Sure.
It's not if, it's when.
That's correct.
Sure. At least I don't have to.
It meets the current requirements right now, but it's past its shelf life, which was put in 94.
you've seen for trucks what happened when you push them past their shelf life. Costs a lot of money.
Okay, I'm moving on. I have nothing under library. Now I'm at Public Works, and I'm on equipment. Replacement of T1 truck 1, 34,000. Tandem axle plow truck 250. By the way, now, the replacement of T1, that's a truck. It's proposed that we take 14,000 from the reserve, and is T1 a half ton?
It's a pickup truck, yeah.
It's a pickup. All right, so 14,000 from the reserve and 20,000 from the tax, the current tax, 2019 tax revenue. 2019 tax revenue. Tandem axle plow truck, 250,000 from the tax take. And then the excavator as a question mark, because we know that there are other alternatives. Let the lease expire, turn the thing in, do another lease, not have one. Contract as needed. Contract as needed. Contract as needed.
It's another option.
Is it worth more than 99,000?
Yeah.
Only has 20,000 hours on it, doesn't it?
2050.
Or 2,000?
Okay, so let's do these one at a time. The pickup truck to start with. Yay or nay? I guess might just well be blunt about that.
That's 20,000, Bill.
Well, or used, we buy used.
Well, okay.
Why do we have to buy new?
Well-
Buy off lease, come off lease.
That's right, if you bought one 2 or 3 years
Lease
old.
it.
What's
Aye.
it gonna cost?
Lease it.
Lease it. 4-year lease, 5-year lease.
Not that
Why not?
It'd do something, but by the time,
Pay
by
more
the
than
time
it's
you
worth.
turned it in, you pay.
Well, you're not gonna turn it in. What you're gonna do is buy it out
You wanna
again.
buy it out again.
Yeah, well, top ones, I don't know what indicates of leasing are. Because how old was the one we're replacing?
211.
2011.
2011, we've only gotten 7 years out of it?
Yep.
280,000 kilometers on it.
280,000 kilometers. Well, it's done.
Then what would we do with it?
it's done last.
Sorry?
Give it to the CAO.
I could add it to my collection.
No, is there a plan to do something with it?
Normally, we would take a truck like that, similar to what the county has just done, declare it surplus to the needs of the municipality and try to get a few $100s for it.
I see.
I thought we were.
If it was running, I mean, you can keep it. Till it dies.
Started a policy of sending them to auction.
Yeah.
Vehicles we want rid of.
Yeah, that's disposal.
I could do that.
Big thing is, for what you're gonna get out of it, does it even, I mean, I don't know what the maintenance log looks like. You know, what you do with these things at the end, see, 7 years is not a long lifespan, even though 280,000 is, but that's 280,000 kilometers, that's not miles.
That's not a lot.
No, that's not a lot. Can it go another year? There's the real question. What's the maintenance log looks like?
Could we quadruple the maintenance budget? Then we're back to operations, just to be sure.
Is this one of the bad ones?
280,000 kilometers.
So if I may, through the chair, if you recall, last year at budget time, it was approved, truck 1, and we had the case loader go down, and if you recall that we switched over about 20,000 in to cover the lease on that loader, and put the 14,000 into reserves to use in 2019, so that we would replace truck 1. So to say, can it last another year? Yes, but all of our vehicles, there's been a trend of it can last another year, and yes it can, but eventually you don't have the reliability, and you have wild expense costs.
Okay, so,
And this is your main patrol vehicle,
yes,
so,
that's,
I think you want a reliable vehicle.
I don't have a problem.
No, I don't either. It's a recommendation and they know the vehicle better than I do, so,
okay, so I'm including the 20,000.
yeah.
All right, now the 250.
Is that vehicle for,
Which one is it?
the one we're talking about, the tandem axle plow? Is that the vehicle for we're talking about?
Yes, that is the oldest one in the fleet, yes.
175,000 kilometers on it, 201?
Yes.
Okay.
It is a Peterbilt, yes it is.
Did you,
Peterbilt? Yeah. Okay.
and did you come up with other options? Were there, we discussed that I think last time, right? Were there other options other than buying a 250, like leasing and stuff like that?
Yes, through the chair, I don't have all of that information tabulated yet, but my understanding is that you won't find a dealer that will lease a plow truck. So,
We won't what, Dave?
won't lease a plow truck. There was an option of leasing a plow truck. Basically, what you're gonna have is a lease for 5 years, and I believe it was Councilor Hunter that mentioned it, that you're gonna pay the entire cost of that truck.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
have nothing.
You'll pay you'll pay the full lease amount over 5 years and have nothing at the
Correct.
end. And-
Yeah.
Correct.
Did,
In these particular units, you're much better off to buy.
did you look into jumping on with United Counties yet, or no? Like when they're gonna purchase, so we could get a better deal maybe, or no?
Not at this stage, but that's certainly an option that we'll pursue if we get a good
This-
sense that it will go forward.
This is the one that we got killed with for expenses last year?
Yeah,
One of them.
Yeah.
40 some odd thousand. Now, will the truck remain in the fleet?
Gee whiz, no.
No.
Get her out the door.
Well, maybe they could keep it in the fleet and drive a little slower.
You don't have anybody to drive it.
So, through the chair, certainly the plan would be to declare it surplus, and it can go to auction or wherever, and see what we can come up with for price.
That's with
And,
truck 4, was the one that he was talking about, taking the plow off it and moving it over to, what, truck 7?
To truck 5.
Truck 5, yeah.
Correct.
Get a couple years.
Get a couple additional years out of that plow, yes.
You're gonna take the plow off of this?
The new plow.
We will switch the plow off of truck 4 to truck 5 and put the plow that's on truck 5 on truck 4 as part of the disposal.
Sale package.
Yeah, because you're not gonna get anything for it anyway.
No, we're not.
Okay, so,
And through the chair, my comment would be that the GPS records would indicate that speed of the vehicles are pretty good.
well, I disagree, but I don't see the GPS record. All
Well-
I see is the gravel in people's yards as they get called to come and look at the gravel in my yard.
I'll take evidence-based over visual any day.
Can't-
Will the work-
You
does the
can't-
work-
you
does the
can't
work crew
deny
go
the
out and
visual.
Clean up the gravel this spring.
You can't refute the evidence.
People wants the road graded down to gravel all winter long, you're gonna have gravel in the dooryard, because you grade plow hard enough to get the snow and ice off, you're gonna get gravel with it, so.
I got a paved road and I got gravel 15 feet into my grass.
You're about the third or fourth. Okay, so I'm marking the tandem axle truck as included. Now I'm on buyout of excavator. Do we have to make a decision on this tonight? We're right down in the weeds here.
Man, there's no hours on that.
No,
No hours.
half price,
Why is there no hours?
excavators don't get that many hours.
They don't-
So with all due respect, you're getting 500 hours a year approximately.
It's a high-o, right?
It's a high home. So it's.
But I'm just saying it's low hours compared to, I talked to a lot of contractors, like high hours is 10,000, 8,000, 9,000. This is very, very low hours.
What is it?
Correct.
Steve?
2020, isn't it?
I think it's 2050.
Yeah.
issues.
It's in the
So in
back.
4 years, you're averaging about 500 hours a year.
So
on
very,
it.
very
It's
little.
got,
And no maintenance,
1,221
right?
hours, according to this.
What's that?
It's got
1,221.
1,221 hours.
Geez, where's that?
Well, it's in the deep, it's down in the weeds.
It's in the capital budget items for consideration, it shows 2,045 hours.
Okay, so 2,000.
Yeah. Anyway,
So
this
it's very
adds
little.
up these
So,
five-
yeah, my apologies,
I
I was
don't know
5
which
kilometers
number's
off.
right, but.
No, there's been no major repairs either on that.
So this particular one was is a leased unit, and part of the package was a maintenance package. So.
It was covered.
That covered all repairs.
But in the 4 years, I'm asking, in those 4 years, did we have a lot of problems with it, or no?
There were some issues that, from all accounts, from staff, those have been corrected. And it would appear that things are good. The reality is that with these type of equipment, if something goes wrong and you don't have those maintenance agreements and you're in that leasing end of it, it can get costly. So that's a risk, although on the same token, as we've indicated, the 2,050 hours is not an extreme amount of hours for that particular unit. So there's risk involved. As was indicated, you could look at buying it out and look to take that to auction and get potentially much more than the 99 to cover a potential lease, or you could work that into another lease of a unit and have that incorporated in.
Or we could keep it and keep working
Or you
with it,
could keep it and keep working it,
and it's paid for.
and it is paid for, you just have your ongoing expenses as they incur.
Okay, so the way I'm hearing it is we buy it out. That's what I'm hearing. So now I'm marking that as included. So just pointing out, we're working down, we haven't turned down one thing yet. You're gonna be at 1.8 million, and then what are you gonna do? Let's keep going, sidewalks, 135 meters of sidewalk. Anybody gonna turn that down? No, so we'll mark that included,
Where's the sidewalk?
all over the place.
Right of the big sections from Grand through and Spencer
Spencer building.
back through to in front of.
This is total in the township? Oh,
Total replacement.
Total replacement.
Now, by the way, one of the big complaints that I've had over the last 4 years is the sidewalk plow that we've got is, the space between the tires is too wide for the sidewalk, so it's either on one side or it's on the other side, and then it's digging up the sod. So when we replace this sidewalk, do we do it wide enough to accommodate our sidewalk plow, or do we replace our sidewalk plow? Which we do here?
So through the chair, we would replace this sidewalk to the appropriate standard. In a number of cases where the equipment has been determined to be too big for the sidewalk is not potentially at the proper width. And there's many variations, but the reality is, if you make the sidewalk 6 feet, the potential still exists that there's going to be sod turned up. I've never met a location that I visited that has snow that I haven't seen sod turned up at some place on a sidewalk on the edge of a road.
yeah, it wouldn't matter for safety.
It's a casualty of living in Canada. I get it.
What's the standard for the sidewalk?
I want to say that it's, I believe that the latest one is like something like 50 inches in width.
And what's the gauge on the tire width?
Off the top of my head, I'm not sure. If the desire is that we avoid any sod turned up with the replacement that we do, we'll certainly look at, although we won't get as much done with the 40,000, because we'll have to go much wider. I'll give the sidewalk plow at least a foot and a half on either side.
So just the 40,000 that you've got in here,
Like, come on, you're going blind down a road. Like, in all fairness, right, we're going blind in 15 centimeters of snow until the banks are up. Yeah.
The sod I can live with.
no, no, it's.
What's the lifespan of the actual sidewalk machine?
The sidewalk machines,
Sidewalk plow, the sidewalk.
it can vary between 10, 15 years
And it's,
before you start getting into major expenses on that upkeep.
We've had a fair amount of expenditures on that plow.
Sorry?
The sidewalk plow in Cardinal that we own, we've had a fair amount of expense on that plow.
We have. It is a 2005.
But I think, talking about sidewalks being damaged and stuff, a lot of them are in Spencerville, and I think that's because their contractors outfit is way too big on those sidewalks too. It's even bigger than the one we have.
I would say it is probably wider than the unit that's in Cardinal.
That's what during the election, I got complaints that the sidewalk needs replacing in Spencerville, and that's why it was way too heavy of a machine for being on that type of a sidewalk, but that, of course, paved sidewalk back there, so.
Asphalt.
yeah, so again, that's what my next one was. There's the concrete cutter guy, there's no use for him to salvage them and make them longer, because they're pavement sidewalks we're talking about, right? Asphalt sidewalks versus.
Yes, the majority of this work is on replacing the asphalt sidewalk with an actual
It's that strategy.
concrete sidewalk. So that moving forward, as events or heaves exist, that we have we have that option to use the cutter.
Yeah, the cutter was money well spent, for sure, in salvaging and prolonging the life of those concrete ones.
Okay, so we're understanding that the sidewalks go in at their normal width, standard width, right?
Yeah.
And then we deal with the, I mean, there is a problem there, I don't know why it can't be solved, but. So now I'm at gravel to surface treatment roads, Campbell Road 216,000, Chambers Road 192, and Coopman Road 12.5. Comments of any?
Well, I think with the budget situation we're in this year, I think we need to suspend that transfer over for a year.
So that's 420,000. I'm gonna put a circle around it and say no.
What's at Koogman Road, 12,500?
It's a little weedy.
And going into Vicky's.
Going
It's
in where?
the
Place there where Steve Cookman lived at the end of the Hyman Road, dead end road that goes up into their place. That's a township road.
It's off Hyman, and it runs north about, I don't know, about 300 meters maybe or something like that.
All right, if you just, Campbell Road and
Yeah.
Cookman Road,
Extension.
intersect Hyman. so it's
Oh,
really
okay, I know the one.
extension.
The other side of
Yeah,
Hyman, the
yeah,
other side.
yeah, thank you.
Just one of the other roads that were ends of abandoned roads that are still roads.
Okay, so now I'm on surface treatment joint project with Latimer. Is the North Grenville in for their share?
well, through the chair, I would have to say they're probably in the same position that we're in. So, one of the items that the previous council and this council had talked about was some of those boundary roads on moving forward with upgrades. We've been in talk with North Grenville. They at a staff level, we seem to be on board to, that Latimer Road is a good candidate. It's basically ready. North Grenville typically does gravel to surface or at least surface treatment on an annual basis. So it would make sense, if we're not doing our gravel to surface, that North Grenville would take the primary on having, doing the administration on that project, and we would just pay our 50% of those costs.
Nice thing about it, it's one of the farthest one away from the,
It is.
for the grader to travel to.
It has been all rebuilt.
Hey, pardon?
It has been all rebuilt a few years ago, it gets.
Well, it's gonna shape, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so can
So it's out,
I,
isn't it?
I'm gonna mark Latimer Road as included. Now, here's where I am so far, on the basis of what I have heard. And with all due respect to Councillor Dillabaugh, I'm gonna go up the list instead of down. So, here's what I heard. Pittston Road included from 44 to Young. Weir Road included. Latimer Road included. Sidewalks, 135 meters included. Buyout of excavator included. Tandem axle truck to replace T4 included. Pickup truck to replace T1 included. Recreation capital, stairs to Cardinal Pool to come out of the Cardinal, the reserve, the Cardinal Reserve, and it's as a result of the sale of the Cardinal Hydro.
Hydro Reserve.
Hydro Reserve. Floor scrubber, Cardinal Arena, 7,000 included. Spencerville Arena chiller, 110 included. Spencerville Arena lighting, 20,000 included. I'm now at stormwater management. Smith Road culvert included. Work to be,
Mr. Mayor.
work, just, excuse me just a second.
Sure.
Work to be done to refine the pricing and the design. Go ahead, jump in.
No, it's okay, you just answered the question, thank you. That's
Okay.
all right.
Now, fire department capital is in park until we get to the next item on the agenda. And I'm up at Gallup Canal North Bridge pedestrian railing. We have 49 as work in progress.
What happens to my stone fence?
Oh, just a minute. I got a mark, actually, I had a question mark beside that one with no decision. I heard no decision. So
Why
I
would
need
you skip it?
direction.
No,
No. I don't
you didn't
like-
skip it, we talked about it.
Yes, we talked about, the reason I didn't say included was because I don't have it as included.
Yeah, that was the thought at the time, that we need that.
Okay, and so Gallup Canal North Bridge pedestrian railing, 49,000 available as work in progress, but work to be done on both design and cost. And we have a consensus to tender it using the design that the engineers have prepared, and, but the tender has to clearly state, lowest or any bid not necessarily accepted.
Correct.
Okay, so that's where I am. Now that, I've got fire department capital in park until we can get to, 4C. But before I go to 4C, I've got to go to 4B2. And 4B2 is long-range capital. So this is a long-range capital forecast as to what we're supposed to be looking forward to in the next 5 years. Actually, the next 3. 19, 20, and 21. And how am I gonna read this? In 19, I'm looking at 3.35 million. That's this year. But we're only dealing with 1.868, right?
The total capital for this year, if you look at the first column, is 3.358.
Oh, yes, okay, I got you. Yes, I'm looking at the wrong column, okay. And then you're telling us 2020, next year is about 2.3, and 2021 about 1.6.
Correct.
And you're telling us what money might be available. So in 2019, we would have, how am I reading this? 220 from the gas tax, 104 carried forward, 203 from the reserves, taxation supported capital.
That was what we had supported previously in 2018 for capital. So that's what I'm putting there is already included as previously taxed in last year's value. We supported taxation in 2018 to the amount of $998. So I'm using that as a value that we're not taxing more for. This is what we have already funded, available funding for capital.
I don't follow you.
So in 2018, we taxed capital at an amount of $998. So in 2019, if we're not changing the tax rate, using the same 2018 tax rate, we have that same $1 million available to us. So those are the funding that we've identified in the sheet in the first sheet that I gave you.
Go ahead.
So we have a total of $1.5 million, which leaves that unfunded of 1.8.
You lost me on that one.
You look at the.
What, hang on one second. Why are we looking at this sheet? This is a projection as to what might come in 2020 and 2021.
And also looking out over the next 4 years past 22 and 2022 and 2026, we have a total of 13 million still. So what I'm trying to demonstrate to council and committee is that, you know, we have capital over the next 7 years of over $20 million. So we have to figure out, we can defer projects each year if we think we can't do it this year. It'll move it to next year. And it won't go away, is what I'm trying to demonstrate. So as Mr. Bradley suggested, you know, staff needs to look forward in the future to see what projects are coming. Staff does that. We've forecasted in the back sheets. We've already previously supplied council with these back sheets before, where it used to be a 10-year. I haven't gone out the other 3 years. I've just shortened it to the 7 years. But we're still trying to demonstrate that the capital isn't going away. And if we're only supporting taxation out of supporting capital with $1 million worth of taxation, we're going to be short funded every year over the next 7 years. So, you know, you have choices. Council has choices. Either they don't do that capital, and there's risk involved in not maintaining that infrastructure, or you start taxing to make sure some of the capital gets supported. Because there's very little revenue streams for us as a township. We can't look to the upper tiers. The province is giving all the signals they don't have the money. The feds, it's hard to get any application money from them. The most you're gonna get is federal gas tax, which is about $200,000. And that's already embedded in what we support our current capital with.
This sheet to me was extremely important. Number one, it shows for the year 2019 where we're getting the money from, the money that we feel we're going to get, and also the shortfall between the list of projects that we would consider to do, and the shortfall is $1.5 million. So the question is, where does the $1.5 million come from if we want to do all those projects? no, you know, we're gonna throw a few out, but it's still gonna be a sizable chunk of money. And all this does to me, the whole page, is reflective of everything that we can read in the papers here in the news and so on, is that this country is overspending. The Fraser Institute done studies to the yin-yang, and municipalities, I passed one out last meeting, are spending a lot more than the tax base can support. So all this page does is show that. So I don't know where we're gonna get $1.5 million, but that's gonna be the issue we have to deal with. And it'll be a little less because we'll throw a few projects out, or defer them, or delay them, or whatever. But this
That's
page
if everything goes smooth.
exactly.
The perfect world.
No, I mean, the thing is, I think our Treasury Department has shown here the impact of possibly borrowing $1.5 million. You know, in terms of debt payments and so on. So should we consider doing that and decide to borrow money, then we're gonna have to have a, you know, an amortization schedule.
When do you end the borrowing?
Hmm?
When do you end the borrowing?
You never do.
You gotta end, every
No, but
time
I'm
you
saying
borrow,
if
you
you
gotta
get
pay.
into it, if you get into it, you never end it.
If you get into it.
Yeah. I mean, the arena in Cardinal, which, I mean, there's no sense going over that, but we'll all be dead before it's paid for. If you look at the amortization schedule.
I'm really hoping that
Yeah, I would think so. Paid for 6 years, it's over 35-year amortization, we only got 29 years left on it, so.
Yeah, so that, I mean, the issue of debt is another whole subject we could talk for weeks about. But anyways, that's my view on this particular page, and I'm thankful that you put it together.
Right now, from what I can see here, with what we've got out, we're down to overspent by about $900,000. We're sitting on, we still haven't allocated that $500,000, so if you put all that towards capital, then you're down to $400,000. That's about what the fire department's talking to you
We haven't even done that.
on the thing that we haven't looked at yet, so.
Okay, so,
Mel, excuse me.
go ahead.
Mel, you're telling me just in 2019 then, looking at this, is probably our worst year if we live in the perfect world? Right?
Yeah, I would
Like
say in the perfect
220,
world, yes.
2020 looks good for us, 2021 is all right. So the next 2020 is gonna be our 2019, this year is gonna be our worst. Is that what you're really saying?
Yeah, I mean, we still are going to have to tax for capital, unless we keep deferring capital. Or we start losing, we start making those hard decisions and saying, as a small municipality of 7,000, can we support 2 arenas, 2 pools,
Exactly.
2 fire halls, 2 libraries? Right? I mean, amalgamation back in the day was meant to do that, to amalgamate a township and a town to cut the costs so that townships can afford, or people can afford to pay for the services. So that's where we're at. If we want to maintain the level of service, being that we are providing 2 arenas and we're providing the amount of fire support for our residents, or 401, 416 accidents, those are conscious decisions of council that have to decide, you know, whether we've met that max of, we can't raise more taxes unless we have a growth of, and we're a small municipality that's not going to see a large amount of growth. Maybe 10 or 20 years from now, we might see a large amount of growth and we'd be in a different situation, but we're in the same situation as many other municipalities that have amalgamated, that they're still supporting 2 of everything.
Well, I mean.
And I'm not saying that we, you as a council, should make that hard choice, but if we're maintaining the level, we have to still keep putting money into the assets we have. Or we, as the CAO said, we can't ask our residents to keep their house up as well as pay for our infrastructure. at the same time. Like, we can't expect their level of upkeep to be higher than ours.
It boggles my mind, though, that we can talk about growth. We had $87 million worth of assessment growth this year, and it's gone. Basically, it's gone. Where'd it go? 87 million. It created $631,000 of additional tax revenue over last year, and it's gone.
It's
We
still-
don't have enough money to do we've increased our operations by $61,000 over what we spent last year, which was already $108,000 over what we budgeted. That's a $170,000 spread between what we budgeted and what we spent, what we raised. And then we look at the capital, and I mean, there's no possible way that $87 million in additional, which was growth, and there isn't any other township that's enjoyed that kind of growth. Not one. That $87 million won't help us a bit with our capital program. Little bits here and there, but what we're being asked to do, in a way, we're being asked, and basically we've pretty much all agreed to it, with the number of things that we've included in our capital, what we've pretty much all agreed to is raise the taxes even more. That's what you're looking at here. I don't know, how much? What's my total that I'm at right now with all the ones that were included?
We've taken 900,000 of capital out, so.
How'd you get that, John? Excuse me.
Just added up,
the
we
three
took out
roads.
15,000 for the fence, we took out 17,000 for the stairs, it's come out of the reserve for the.
Yeah, go
Here,
ahead.
we took 216 out for the Campbell Road, 192 out for Chambers Road, 12.5 out for Cookman Road, 236 out for the Venter Road, and I roughly took 300,000 off the Pittston Road there, remaining with half of it, so.
So how much, 100,000?
We've roughly taken 900,000 off.
Roughly 900,
Off of the 1.8, right?
Yeah.
yeah.
All right, so if you
Off
take,
the
if you
2.8.
take 900 off 1.8, you still end up with 900, right?
Off
Okay,
this,
So we still got 500,000 there that we're sitting on of growth in income tax that we haven't put any place.
Okay, so if you put the 500,000 that we've got, the 569 or the 570, if you put it towards the 9, we're still going to.
Still gotta find 400,000 someplace, and we haven't included the fire department yet.
Right. So we gotta find the 400,000, and the 400,000 works out to, well, 50,000 is 1 percentage point. 400,000 would be 3%? Well, no, more than that. 5, almost 6%. Prepared for a 6% tax increase?
You still have to look at your reserves, you're putting roughly 400,000 budgeted over in the reserves. How much do we need to put 400,000 in this year in a bad year? Don't put as much in reserves this year. That's what the reserves are there, is for, to cover for, we've got a $250,000 truck that has to be replaced. We've got reserves in the road budget that's, particularly have been put in there to replace equipment. That's what you're putting it there for, so. Not much point in building reserves if you don't use them in a year that you need them.
Are we talking right numbers?
No.
So through
So,
through the
She
chair,
says
maybe
no.
you should jump
I
in.
think,
Maybe you should jump in, okay? Tell me where we're wrong.
the 900,000 that Councillor Hunter is suggesting coming off, should come off 2.8, not 1.8. The 1.8,
That's what we're taxing for.
the 1.8 is just the subtotal for Public Works. The total of capital is 2.8 million, minus the 9. that you're suggesting that we're taking out.
Okay, so,
You got the total on here on, under 2019 as total to be funded, unfunded reserves are 1.8.
no,
That's the subtotal for
that's the
public works.
subtotal. Go down to the next number.
2,831,400.
Yeah.
This sheet, John.
What'd you say was the total, John, roughly?
Well, that's the number above it. It's just the number above it. It's just the subtotal for public.
No, of what we decided on. We got
Well, it's roughly 900,000.
Cut 900,000 out.
So here's the numbers as I see them. 2,831,400 on the ask when I'm looking down 2019 from taxation. So 2,831,400. That's I'm gonna call that the ask. All right, we took 900 out of that. That leaves 1,931,000 to find.
Yeah.
For 569 available from taxation that we're going to get as a result of growth. So I'm taking the 569 and now I only have to find 1.362.
1.361, 750.
All right. Well, that's not a problem.
No.
I still don't get where you get these figures that we need to get 1.931 now in taxes. You already told us we got $1 million already in our budget
Correct.
for taxation.
So there is already built into the 2018 tax rate,
Yeah.
there's $1 million set aside for capital.
So what we're looking for increase in capital right now is 931,000, above what we've already taxed for.
Correct.
And we got roughly $500,000 left that we haven't put any place in
I
reserve.
would dispute the $500,000.
Well, that still brings me back down to $400,000 that I said that we need to either find or cut out of our budget.
Right, but the 500,000 available is not a number that's actually accurate.
Why isn't it?
Well, if you look at the original numbers at the first, on that first sheet, the summary sheet, the variance to budget value in taxation is 556,000.
Yeah.
We're spending 170 of that towards the additional and operational monies. So you've gotta take that 170 off your 556. Then if you choose to do the whole amount of reserves, that's an additional 65,000, so you have to take that off of the 556, and that leaves you $320,000 for capital.
I'm having trouble with the incremental. That's where I'm having real trouble.
It's budget over budget.
Yeah, that's where I'm having real trouble. Because that's,
Basically, right now, the figures you're giving me, if we don't put nothing in the reserves this year, we got the money to pay for it.
Some things, yes, but not all of it.
Well, you said you got 340,000 that we're putting in reserves, and you've got 320, you're saying that's.
No, 300,
So that's 660, so we're getting
yeah.
pretty close to,
you're getting closer, for sure.
if we do what the fire department are saying, a budget of over 2 years, we're up out of numbers, so. We're awful close to it.
Mr. Mayor? Is there any appetite to take a break and come back at this?
I was just gonna have a little sleep.
Pretty glazed.
Or,
I I think,
We've been at it for 2.5 hours.
I'm sort of thinking the break should be like about 4 days.
For a week. If it's the will of committee, we could take this information away and bring back a holistic view of where we're at, and perhaps,
Holistic view.
Perhaps come back
You're
with
really
Mr.
good with
Hunter's.
words. Can you bring him back with a bag of money? Never
No,
mind the
we
view.
I'll get you all a lottery ticket. Councillor Hunter's calculations, then maybe we can
Yeah.
get your spreadsheet that tells
The
exactly what that
reason I
is.
hesitate to take the break right now is that the chief's been waiting.
Oh, he's fine.
I think I'm getting set up with all this and then going live.
Well,
You're the good guy.
if, with the indulgence of the chief, I'd like to take your advice. If everybody around the table is ready for
Are you
another
all right
run,
with Chief?
another day.
Chief,
Well,
you survive?
Maybe before we do that, the fire chief could just give us a summary of what that item that he wants to talk about. Because it may have some impact on these, on this rework.
Maybe you could tell us through the chief, or mayor to our chief, is why this van is worth more than a pumper.
No,
Through the chair, I don't
we're
think you
either gonna
priced the
open
pumper
this
lately.
up or we're not.
5 minutes.
5 minute, can you do a 5-minute version?
Absolutely.
Okay, we'll give you, you've been sitting here very patiently all evening. I hate to not give you the opportunity for a 5-minute version. But just so you know, I got so many numbers running around up here.
Not sure I'm listening. Sorry, Brian.
It's okay, this is gonna be quick and easy. So my original ask for the 2019 capital budget was a new rescue van for Station 1. The current unit was purchased prior to amalgamation. It's a 1996, and it's primarily designed to carry bunker gear. It's not really a rescue van, so that's the truck that had 28 compartments for bunker gear.
And that's here in Spencer.
That's here in Spencerville. So
And
That's
saw
van
that.
one?
that is van 1, correct?
Okay, and that's the one we saw when we did our tour.
Yes.
Okay.
We saw it.
So the deployment model we're trying to switch to is to get more people to go to the fire hall, get their gear, get on a truck and go. So in order to facilitate that, we would like to get all of our equipment, all of our rescue equipment on one truck that would leave the station. And the truck that we have now just doesn't fill that need.
Okay, so but here's my question. So I was under the impression that because our volunteers that work out of this station are so widely spread because of their employment in residential homes, they're so widely spread throughout the township that it doesn't make sense for them to come to the station first and leave from the station. That it makes more sense for them to go directly from wherever they happen to be to the scene of the fire. This is what I've had in my head for the last 12 years. You're telling me that you're trying to change that?
We're trying to change it, but not completely. It's more of a hybrid model. More than half of our members live within 4 kilometers of the station, at Station 1.
They work within 4 though.
Well, we
You
don't
know,
know.
if the guys are working in Brockville or Prescott or Cardinal, does the model still apply?
Well, it does. We can't take people work 8 hours a day, so they're at home 16 hours a day. We can't what if every scenario, right?
That's true.
So the model we're looking at is the people that live within 4 kilometers that are generally responding from home. Most of our personnel cannot respond from work. So the people that are responding from home that live within 4 kilometers of the fire hall would respond to the fire hall.
Okay, so you're changing that model. Does the change in the model, and this is kind of basic. Does the change in the model, first of all, does it have the support of the officers and the men?
It does.
It does. And then, so then what is the implication for the ask? You're saying that you would no longer need that van that carries all that bunker gear. that's that's 375,000.
That is
You're
correct.
saying you don't need that.
That's correct, because we need a rescue van.
What's a rescue van?
A rescue van would carry all of our extrication equipment, all of our firefighting equipment.
Firefighting, not the bunker gear.
It would carry the bunker gear of those people that you're referring to that are living a long distance away from the fire hall. The current van is designed to carry 28 sets of bunker gear.
Yeah.
We would roughly need 12. So
That's
that
a
would free up
smaller vehicle.
all kinds of room in the truck to carry the firefighting
So,
equipment.
so can that van, the existing van be like refurbished or whatever you wanna call it to
It,
meet your needs?
it could be, but are we going to invest $50, $60, $70,000 in a 23-year-old vehicle?
How many kilometers is on it?
Probably 35, 40,000.
Yeah, but why would we need to do anything to it? It would just have a lot of empty space.
Well, he wants to add the rescue equipment.
Once we add this other vehicle.
Correct.
My question is, why is a vehicle that's gonna carry this equipment, and I believe I read in your thing, crew cab to carry 4 people or so with it. That vehicle that you're looking at,
Correct.
why is it gonna cost $375,000? I see a lot of service vehicles around that I work with that I'm sure carrying a lot more heavy equipment than what the fire department's gonna carry in that truck, and they don't cost $375,000.
I can gladly take you to any fire truck dealer and we can look at fire trucks, Counselor, because you don't buy a pumper for 300,000 anymore, and you don't buy a rescue van. That rescue van cost us $71,000 when we bought it. I'm not looking at a Cadillac.
Okay, so there's a change of thinking going on here. There's a change of thinking going on. We're changing the response model. Should we allow, is there any possible way that we can allow a year of experimentation with the response model before we invest in the vehicle that's required to support them? Can we not use our existing vehicles to support the, I'm gonna call it the pilot project? Or are we jumping right to the new model?
I wouldn't say we're jumping. It's basically the way things work now. We just don't have the equipment set up correctly.
And so what are the implications of your report that you just gave us?
Sorry. Part 2,
Oh,
that was my initial ask.
okay.
Part 2, on the 14th of January, we were close to Angelo's in truck 8, which is an F-250 pickup truck, which is also a 1996, that we have been using for our extrication calls. We took it across the weigh scale because we've had lots of comments about the way the vehicle handles over the years. So we had a full crew in the truck, and we were right down by Angelo's on 16, so I said, let's take 10 minutes and put it across the scale. And what we found was that the truck was over its gross vehicle weight. So obviously that's not an ideal situation, so I'm requesting, we also replace that with a pickup truck at the same time. And in order to make that a little easier to swallow, I've got 3 options on the back. Option 3 would be to purchase the chassis for the new rescue truck this year and a new pickup truck that would cost $180,000 in 2019, and then finish the cost of the rescue truck in year 2, which would be $250,000 in 2020. So I'm spreading the cost of the 2 vehicles across 2 years.
What's the pickup truck?
That would be replacing the truck that is over its weight rating.
It's an extraction vehicle.
Okay, so what's the cost of the pickup truck?
$55,000.
Okay, so So it would be 55,000 on this year's budget,
Correct.
and only the chassis for the rescue van, what's that?
But $125,000.
It's 125,000. So the implication for this year would be 180, right?
Correct.
And then in 2020, we would have them complete the work on the new chassis. And what's that worth? 250.
Correct.
So now we're at 430. Can we now take advantage of the CAO's suggestion? That we have a little break? One of the things that we have to do is pick a date for our next meeting, because we know when our next meeting is gonna be, but we don't know when the meeting thereafter is gonna be. So I show our next meeting as Thursday, February the 7th at 6:30. Now, I do have 6:30. I had it at 6, but got changed to 6:30, I think that was you. Okay, so now,
February 7th, Mayor?
yes, February 7th.
6:30, yes.
Yes, that's budget meeting number 4. Now, we need a date and a time for budget meeting number 5. And just point out to everyone that the CAO leaves on the 9th. So, I know that many of you will not want to be away from your homes on February the 14th, which happens to be Valentine's Day. So what about the 13th?
I can't be there on the 13th.
Okay, so the 13th is out.
How about the 12th?
Well, what about the 12th? Is it too soon after the 8th?
It's only 4 days.
Oh, sorry, too soon after the 7th. It depends on what has to be revamped. But I'm looking at the 12th then. What about 6:30 on the 12th? Well, first of all, what about 6 o'clock on the 12th? That's a Tuesday.
6:30.
Okay, 6:30 on the 12th, budget meeting number 5. Okay, budget meeting number 5, 6:30 on Tuesday, February the 12th. Okay. Now, I'm moving to item number 5 on the agenda.
We're not
Which is
gonna have a break?
question. Beg your pardon? Question period. Do we have a closed session tonight?
No.
No? That's too bad, I was really hoping to stay another hour.
I can go find some.
Looking for the motion to adjourn. Mr. Robertson and seconded by Councillor Cameron. Those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, it's carried.